Hey guys, happy Monday. Today we are starting our new science module, and yes, we are actually skipping module 11 for now, and we're going to revisit that later. So we are skipping to module 12 today. And remember those 7 characteristics that we talked about that everything that is considered alive has to have? Well, Module 12 is based on one of those 7 characteristics, and it's based on the one that says you have to have energy to survive, which means you either have to be photosynthetic and produce your own energy, or you have to actually eat something to get energy. So Module 12 is based on just one of those 7 characteristics. And my notes are already filled out, but I'm going to do just the plant side for now, so just kind of bear with me. I'm going to hide a few things as we go. So we'll focus on the plant side. And 1 second, guys. So plants, as we know, most plants don't actually eat anything, unless it's like a Venus flytrap, of course. Most plants are photosynthetic, which means they are able to use sunlight to produce their own food. So plants have 2 other names. They are considered to be producers because they produce their own food, and then they are also considered to be autotrophs. And the way I like to remember this is auto, I think of automatic energy, just from sitting out in the sun. And this is how I kind of remember the difference between plants and animals when we get to that. So autotroph or producer, both of these names means a plant. Okay, and just one of the ways that plants get energy is photosynthesis, of course, and we've talked about that many times, but they use sun for energy. Now, plants that are photosynthetic have a really special technique in order to find sunlight, and it's called phototaxis. Phototaxis is when they will actually grow towards the sun because they are, of course, attracted to the sun. So they grow towards it. So if you've ever noticed, if you plant in a pot, you can actually rotate the pot and the plant will grow in whichever direction the sun is in. And that just proves that most plants are phototaxis, or that represent phototaxis. Okay, another thing that plants can do, and these are plants that don't necessarily use sun for energy, but that use chemicals for energy. And not only do plants do this, but fungi do this, protista do this, mold, algae, protozoa, things like that that are a little bit simpler than the actual plant does chemosynthesis rather than photosynthesis. So chemosynthesis means that it uses chemicals for energy instead of sun. So you can remember chemo means chemical, and then photo means sun. Okay? And just like plants that are photosynthetic, plants or fungi or protista that are chemosynthetic, they have the ability to perform chemotaxis, which means that they will actually grow near the chemical or towards the chemical because that is what they are attracted to. Now, what chemicals are they actually attracted to? Well, it depends on what type of plant, fungi, or protista it is. Most of the time, they are going to be attracted to carbon dioxide or sulfur even. And they use that to be able to grow and get energy rather than sunlight. There's also plants that live at the bottom of the ocean, of course. And these plants naturally never see sunlight. So these type of aquatic plants are chemosynthetic, which means that they have to depend on the chemicals in the ocean to be able to grow. So where do they get these chemicals? Well, they get them by growing near the hydrothermal vents, which are literally these little openings, and I can even draw you a picture here. So if this is the ocean floor, they are literally these little openings in the ocean floor where sulfur gets released out of the ocean floor. So you have plants that grow near there, and you even have some organisms. It's a certain type of worm that will actually grow around these vents because they are eating up the sulfur. So it's just kind of neat to think about. So hydrothermal vents are these little fissures, or in other words, openings. You can even write openings beside of it if you want. Openings that release chemicals at the bottom of the ocean. Okay, and most of those chemicals, like I said, is sulfur. Tube worms is the worms that I was talking about that grow near these hydrothermal vents. Okay, now back to plants as a whole. We know that plants can either be photosynthetic or some of them can be chemosynthetic. But what do they actually use to absorb the sun or the chemicals? Well, they actually use what we call vascular tissue. And vascular tissue, there's three main pieces to it. There's the xylem, the phloem, and the stomata. So the way I like to think about this, xylem moves water upwards. So xylem are the tubes that are located in the stem and the roots that go up. So xylem zips upward. That's how I've always remembered it, because if you are putting on a jacket or a pair of blue jeans, you're going to zip up to put on the jacket or the blue jeans. So xylem zips up. So that means that it moves the water up. Phloem, I like to think of flows down. So if you think of like a creek or a river, it is going to flow downstream. So flow, or the phloem, flows downward. So this is the pathway that moves the CO2, which is carbon dioxide, downward in the stem. Okay, and then last but not least is stomata. So if you've ever noticed, if you have a leaf, usually on the front of the leaf, or I guess I should say the top of the leaf, it's usually a smoother surface, but then on the bottom of the leaf, it is a rougher surface, and it feels rougher because there are these little microscopic holes that's actually on the bottom of the leaf, and those openings are called stomata, and that is where the leaves are able to actually absorb sunlight so that the plant can do photosynthesis. So here you have xylem that takes in the water. You have the phloem that is responsible for moving the carbon dioxide, and then you have the stomata that is responsible for the sunlight. So you have sun, carbon dioxide, and water, which is the perfect combination for photosynthesis to occur. Okay, so now we're going to move over here to the animal side. And as always, I will post a picture of these notes for you. So animals are a little different. Animals actually have to eat food to get energy, or in other words, consume food. So consumer is another name for animal, and then heterotroph is another name for animal as well. So it is the opposite of autotroph. So auto, if you remember, autotroph means automatic energy by sitting in the sun. Heterotroph, I wish I had a really good way to remember that one, but I don't. I just have to remember that it's the opposite of autotroph. So heterotroph actually cannot make its own energy. It has to eat to get energy. Now, There's lots of different types of animals as far as what their diet consists of. So there's herbivores, there's carnivores, there's omnivores, and those are the three main types of animals that you've probably heard of before. So herbivores eat plants. So they eat producers, because remember, plants and producers are the same thing. And a way you can remember that is herb. So herbs is a type of plant, of course. And then carnivores, of course, eat meat. So they eat consumers, because consumers are animals and meat comes from animals. So meat and consumers would be the same thing here. And a good way to remember this is carne is the prefix for meat. And then omnivores, which is what us humans are, we eat a little bit of everything. So we eat producers and consumers, which means we eat plants and meat. Omni means both. Okay. And then another type of animal that we don't really think about a whole lot, but they are important just the same, is scavengers. So scavengers, they're a mixture of all of these put together. The biggest thing with scavengers is they eat things that are already dead. So it could be trash, it could be rotting meat, it could be dead animal, but things that are already dead or that have been eaten by something else, or that has been thrown away, those are the scavengers. So think about raccoons, vultures, rats, the things that we don't really consider to be cute and cuddly, that dig through our trash, those are the scavengers. So they eat dead things left over by other consumers. And of course that could be other dead animals or trash or whatever. And then the two last types of animals that I want to talk about, or consumers I should say, are the decomposers and the detritivores. So decomposers and detritivores, they actually do the exact same thing. They eat dead things, okay? Now you may ask, well, what's the difference between a scavenger and a decomposer? Scavengers will eat anything that is dead or that has been thrown away. So they are not picky. Decomposers and detritivores, they eat, I guess you could say, only dead things that are beginning to decompose or decay. They decay because of these two guys right here, the decomposers and the detritivores. So the decomposers, they eat dead things. Detritivores eat dead things. Now what's the difference between these two? So decomposers are the smaller, simple life. And what I mean by that is this is the bacteria and the fungi. So anytime something is left dead, bacteria and fungi will actually start to grow on that organism. And that bacteria and fungi will actually feed on the dead organism. Now a detritivore is usually the insects that do that. So you can think of earthworms or termites, ants even. So these are bugs that will actually help decay the things that are dead. So like I said, they do the same job. They are just two different types of organisms. Detritivores are the bugs. Decomposers are usually the smaller, simpler life, like bacteria and fungi. And then combustion. So combustion, I on these set of notes, I believe I actually concluded the formula for combustion. So this will make a little bit more sense once you see that formula. But combustion is a part of our digestive system. So it's the reaction to convert food into energy for your body. So all of these things that we eat, whether we eat producers, plants, consumers, animals, dead things, trash, whatever we eat, our digestive system allows it to go through combustion, which allows us to convert that food that we're eating into usable energy to keep us strong and healthy. Now, what does combustion require? It requires oxygen, and then it produces energy, carbon dioxide, and water. Okay, and then that will conclude our first page of notes, and then I will post another video that will continue on with each page, and then I will also record a video that is discussing the study guide questions as well. So I hope you guys have a happy Monday, and please let me know if you have any questions or concerns.